signal equipment. The VC have developed a reliable communication system. Captured communications equipment has been a lucrative source of supply. Most of the VC equipment used is of United States, Japanese, or French manufacture. Some probably is obtained locally. Other communication parts are believed to have been supplied at least indirectly by the USSR. The VC have the capability to assemble their own equipment. Indications are that the necessary batteries are obtained either locally or from Cambodia. What about VC training? Well, most of it is done at so-called base areas. Many Viet Cong sanctuaries have been in use since the French Indochina War, serving as areas for training and equipping Viet Cong forces and for rest and rehabilitation. Up to mid-1965, these base areas had been molested little by any type of military action, thereby allowing the Viet Cong almost complete freedom within their boundaries. This situation changed since the last half of 1965, when Allied forces conducted successful ground combat patrols, not only in some of the base areas, but also in areas containing vital overland communication routes. This growing ground pressure and its accompanying aerial bombardment has reduced the security previously provided the Viet Cong by their historic sanctuaries or war zones. However, recent identification of many additional base areas not only allows more flexibility in the supply of VC NVA forces, but it also accrues some security benefit because of a decentralization effect. In varying degrees, these base areas serve the VC as sites for military, logistic, and training installations. Communist personnel attest to the fear generated by the destructive effects of Allied firepower, particularly the increased use of air power and artillery. In addition, recent Allied operations have taken the initiative from Communist forces in most areas and have forced the Viet Cong into a more defensive role. These factors, plus reports of increased hardships, food shortages, and sickness among VC units, have had an adverse effect on Viet Cong morale. Nonetheless, communist indoctrination and control procedures are so pervasive that recent combat losses, food shortages, and hardships probably will not seriously impair the combat effectiveness of the highly motivated VC personnel. Training programs and indoctrination sessions are calculated to effectively imbue the VC with a revolutionary spirit. Viet Cong leaders know that success breeds good morale and publicize success among the troops as well as the civilian populace. For this reason, they never miss an opportunity to propagandize enemy defeat. Whenever possible, the VC attempt to deliberately distort facts in charging Allied perpetration of inhuman acts against innocent people in such a way as to glorify the Viet Cong cause. Production and dissemination of propaganda information is done in the field. The VC are liberal in their issuance of awards and decorations. These troops are receiving the flower of Ho Chi Minh. The VC doctrine holds that morale is a product of the emotional and mental state of the individual. These base areas are also used for rest and recuperation. And here we are watching a VC version of a USO show. Concerning the VC food supply, several indications of local food shortages have been reported, and I believe due primarily to friendly operations designed to deny rice to the enemy. The VC are dependent largely upon the countryside and populace for their food. In those areas of VC control, the populace are taxed a portion of their rice harvest. The rice is processed, cached, and parceled out to the VC. Here we see VC sympathizers bringing in supplies. Where food stocks are excessive, the excess is moved to a VC supply point or cached in the jungle. Once the food is cached or stored, it is extremely difficult for the South Vietnamese to discover. Also, rice is particularly difficult to destroy quickly. Burning only scorches the grain, and other methods require availability of large quantities of chemicals or equipment. What about VC medical supplies? Drug and medical supplies are inadequate by Western standards, and the VC maintain close control over supplies in this category. Here we see pills being formed at a VC base area pharmaceutical depot. A substantial amount of drugs is also purchased on the local market or procured from Saigon. Medical supplies also are infiltrated from NVN. Here we see syringes being prepared and filled. Note the oscillator. It's crude, but effective. The supplies are packed and shipped to the field. Here they are in use at a field infirmary. The overall medical support system, though austere, apparently is capable of supporting existing VC programs. There is a lack of data which will allow an accurate determination of how sickness and battle injuries affect enemy capabilities in South Vietnam. However, with the increasing numbers of major Allied operations, prisoners' reports and captured documents have provided some insight into the problems facing the VC with regard to medical evacuation and treatment of wounded and seriously ill personnel. The VC system of medical evacuation is slow and traumatic and results in a high death rate of those wounded in action. Women and children are often used to evacuate the wounded. Numerous examples have been found in captured documents in which wounded had to wait 12 or more hours for treatment. It is estimated that for every one enemy killed, 15 are wounded. It is further estimated that over 20% of those wounded will eventually die. In addition to deaths from combat wounds, there have been reports that losses due to certain diseases such as malaria and diarrhea have been excessive. Now let us observe the Viet Cong in action. He continues to rely heavily on a campaign of terror, harassment, and sabotage. Here they are planning for a sabotage mission. Note the mock-up of the target bridge. Next comes the fusing and packaging of the explosives. Now they move toward the target area. There's the railroad bridge. The VC then mount the charges and another cut is made in the government's line of communications. The VC are constantly sabotaging the rail lines in the south. Since much of the north-south rail line passes through VC-held territory, it is extremely difficult to keep the line open. During the first quarter of 1967, 144 VC sabotage incidents have been recorded. Now let's look at the VC engaged in military operations. VC in combat, military tactics. Communist military tactics in South Vietnam have undergone a classic guerrilla warfare evolution. Beginning with relatively minor and localized actions, the enemy has progressed to a massive campaign of terror and harassment, coupled with extensive sabotage and well-planned, well-coordinated attacks and ambushes throughout the country. This evolution in tactics has been made possible by a growing sophistication of enemy command control procedures and a steady increase in force strength. The basic actions of the enemy, however, remain the same. Major emphasis is still placed on the small-scale attack and ambush, which tends to whittle away at friendly units. Once the night belonged to the VC. It does not anymore. Note the tracers being fired at VC positions. Although his initiative to conduct large-scale attacks has been diminished by Allied operations, his potential for large-scale action continues to threaten friendly forces and to tie down substantial Allied resources. The VC have been paying dearly for its efforts. Killed figures have been running about 6 to 1 of late. Government casualties have been about 46,000 killed to date. The U.S. has lost over 9,100 men in Vietnam. Here is one. This film shows 2 U.S. POWs being held captive in South Vietnam. To date, the communists have captured 151 U.S. personnel, and 384 more are listed as missing.